Hey, how are you? A good afternoon. So, a little thought from this week's Torah portion. This week we read a double portion. Shabbat is Rosh Chodesh, and we also read a double portion of Matos and Maseh. The first portion, Matot, means the staffs. And the reason why it's called Matot is because the tribes of Israel are called the Mateh, the staffs. There's another name which is much more popular for the tribes of Israel. It's called the Shvatim, Shivtei Yisrael. Now, what's the difference between a shevet and a mateh? A shevet is a branch. A mateh is a stick. So you say, what's the big difference? They both come off of a tree. You know, every Shabbat, when Gruni and I are walking home from shul, many times the kids are running ahead of us and we get onto West Roxbury Parkway, crossing down towards the golf course, towards our house. And you're on a little bit of a high peak of a hill, and all you see around you is these gorgeous trees. And because we live in Boston and it's not flat land and it's all hills, you see layers and layers of trees, and you see all different kinds of trees. And some are luscious green, and some are a little lighter green. Some of them are bare, some of them have branches that seem dead, etc., etc. And I always remark to Gruni how beautiful it is to live in this stunning city, and so much nature, so much gifts from God. And when you appreciate it, you really get to see the beauty that it is. But what is the difference between a staff and a branch? And the rabbis tell us that a branch is something that falls off a tree, yet it's still soft. It's still not hardened as a stick. It must have fell off not far before, and nothing was made out of it. It's still, although disconnected from the tree, seems like it still has some sap, some nurture from the tree, and you can still see the resemblance. A staff is a little different. A staff is something that's so disconnected from the tree that it's strong, it's roughed up, it's hard. You could use it to hit something, and it's also it doesn't look like the tree looks. And the Rebbe, in one of his fascinating talks, the Rebbe says that the Shevet and the Mateh, why are the tribes of Israel called both names? Because one resembles the Jewish people in the time of the temple, when they are, so to speak, connected to the branch. They had the holy Bet HaMikdash. They were full of spirituality. You saw their vibrance. You saw their connection to the Holy Land, to the Holy City, to the service. And one, the Mateh, represents the Jewish people as they are in exile. We've been in exile wandering for almost 2,000 years. And we become hardened. We become strong. We become stiff-headed. Now, sometimes you might say, oh, the branch is much better, right? Because the branch is connected. It's the time of redemption. It's the time of living in the Holy Land. You see its connection to the tree. But the Rebbe explains that mateh, a staff, is what happens to the Jews when they're in exile. Instead of becoming weaker, instead of becoming softer, instead of becoming meek, they become strong. They become like a staff. They become hardened. And we've seen, the Rebbe explains, through the darkest exile of the Jewish people, that we become constantly stronger. We become prouder. We become more connected. And that is why this week's Torah portion is called Mateh. Because when we're in the 3 weeks, mourning the destruction of the temple, and yearning for the time when we will be back in Jerusalem, the Torah portion is called Mateh because God is also telling us that although we had to go through an ardent exile, and it's been so hard, that this exile has brought out the greatness, the strength, the pride of the Jewish people. And nowhere have we seen it more than in Boston over the last week. Although we had the saddest thing happen on Thursday, when a rabbi was stabbed 8 times by a terrorist, by a rabid anti-Semite, a Jew hater. Instead of the Jews becoming soft, instead of the Jews running away into their little closets and stopping to wear their kippas and their tzitzit, the Jews have become stronger. And the community has rallied together. We had a rally on Friday in the pouring rain. There was 1,000 people. Since then, people have come together to help other shuls, to make sure people have security, to connect people to their Judaism. So many people have told me, Rabbi, I'm going to wear my yarmulke specifically because in times of challenge, when you think we're disconnected from the tree, we become like a staff. Last week, something remarkable happened in Germany. For the first time since World War I in 100 years, the German army got its own Jewish chaplain. And that's because although there's only 300 Jews in the German army decided to invest the money to have a full-time Jewish chaplain to cater to the needs of the Jewish community and to those outside the Jewish community who would like to have a rabbi. And the story of this rabbi, his name is Rabbi Jacob Bala, or Rabbi Eliezer Bala, I think. He's 42 years old, and he has a remarkable story. He was born in Hungary to Christian parents, and he went to school, and one day he was a young kid, he was maybe 10 years old, he came to his mother, he says, Ma, why don't you ever take me to Bible class? He took an interest in Bible, and he said, Ma, why don't you take me ever to Bible class? And his mother called him aside and said, I need to share something with you. She said, you see, I'm Jewish, and I'm a Holocaust survivor, and I ran away from my Judaism, but when I married my husband, who's not Jewish, I made him promise that we'll always raise you as a Jew. And today when you ask me about going to Bible class, I want you to know the true person who you are. Well, guess what? After the fall of communism in Hungary, he was about 12 years old, a little older, he went to the Lauder School, which was opened by the Lauder Foundation, run by the remarkable Ron Lauder, who opened many schools in the former Soviet Union. He went to Jewish school. He then came to Germany, where he met his wife, who was originally from Russia. He was ordained as the first rabbi ordained in Russia after World War II. And then he decided to come back. And last week, he became the first Jewish chaplain in the German army. Talk about the Matot Israel. Talk about the perseverance, the strength of Jews in the face of trials and tribulations, of challenges and hardship. We never give up. We always become stronger. We always become prouder. That's what we've seen here in Boston. That's what we've seen last week in Germany. And that's what we've seen through the history of the Jewish people. And that's why this week's Torah portion, when we're sad and we mourn the destruction of the Jewish temple, and we commemorate in the 3 weeks this sad period, we also remember the name of our portion, Matos, the strength of the Jewish people, even in the dark and hard days. God bless you and have a good day.